On a dark evening illuminated by the city lights, we shift our focus to a dimly lit room where Iska is struggling to close his eyes. As morning breaks, the captain, concerned about Iska's condition, goes to inquire about his well-being. Restless and unable to sleep, Iska can only respond that he is all right but having trouble with his sleep. The captain urges Iska to share his concerns with him. Feeling uneasy about it, Iska finally admits to the captain that he is still thinking about the recent battle. It was a battle that ended in a draw, leaving lasting scars both physically and psychologically on Iska. He wants to convey something but decides to postpone it due to his discomfort. Taking responsibility, the captain is determined to help Iska overcome his anxiety. Suddenly, something crosses the captain's mind, and he leads Iska into his room. The room is quite messy, filled with dolls in every corner. As they enter, Iska accidentally notices some of the captain's lingerie hanging in a corner. The captain, embarrassed, hastily tidies up the hanging underwear. The scene continues with Iska sitting across from the captain in the room. The captain offers advice that it's not healthy to always stay indoors. With enthusiasm, the captain presents a ticket to the opera, Tragic Love of the Knightess Beatrix, which is performed annually in the neutral city. The captain is a big fan of this opera, having bought 10 tickets and already used 9 of them. He hands over the last ticket to Iska. Somewhat surprised, Iska inquires about when he can attend the opera, and with a cheerful tone, the captain replies that Iska can go tomorrow before their next mission. 2 men, accompanied by a campfire, find themselves in the forest. They are Iska and his mentor. Iska's mentor hands 2 glowing swords to him and advises him not to let go of these swords, as they are their only hope to restore a world engulfed in war. While on their journey, Iska suddenly awakens to the sound of a familiar voice, saying that they will soon arrive in the city of Ain. The voice belongs to Neen, who is beside Iska, guiding him to the neutral city, Ain. With a hint of surprise in her tone, Neen mentions how quickly Iska fell asleep, even though she was chattering away beside him. Feeling guilty, Iska apologizes to Neen and shares his dream with her. He dreamt of meeting his mentor, the one who trained both Iska and Jin in the past. He felt nostalgic as he hadn't dreamt of his mentor, Crow-sensei, for a long time. After a rather lengthy journey, they finally arrive in the city of Ain. The atmosphere is dark and calm, and the previously empty seats are now occupied by people eager to watch the opera performance. The music begins to resonate in the room, with 2 individuals on the stage portraying their roles beautifully and gracefully. From his seat on the podium, Iska enjoys the performance. However, in the midst of the show, he becomes slightly disturbed by a woman sitting in front of him, as she is crying loudly. This prompts her female companion to reprimand her for being too loud and inquire about her handkerchief. The sobbing woman responds through her tears that her handkerchief is wet because she has been crying too much. Upon hearing this, Iska offers his assistance by handing his handkerchief to the woman. She is taken aback but accepts Iska's offer of help. Some time has passed, and all the cast members of the show lined up on the stage, expressing their gratitude for watching their performance, accompanied by applause from all the audience, signifying that the show had ended. Iska, who was applauding, suddenly jolted upon hearing an apology from the woman in front of him. The woman apologized for Iska's handkerchief getting wet from her tears and intended to replace it, along with standing and turning to face him. Iska tried to decline the woman's offer, but as he attempted to explain, the lights in the building suddenly came on, allowing them to see each other's faces. They were both surprised. Iska didn't expect that the woman he helped was Alice, the person he had fought against recently. Alice, taken aback and stuttering, asked why Iska was at the opera. Without hesitation, Alice intended to attack Iska using her ice magic. However, Rin promptly prevented it from happening. This was because they were in the neutral city where conflicts were prohibited. If Alice attacked Iska, it would turn the entire neutral city against her. After a moment's thought, Alice, with a somewhat threatening tone, asked Iska to forget what had happened, as she was crying too much and had enjoyed the performance too much. Seeing Alice becoming emotional, Rin reassured her. It was already daytime, and Alice and Rin bowed and bid farewell before leaving the opera building. The scene shifts to Alice and Rin walking on the streets of the city of Ain. They chat as they make their way to the nearest restaurant, but unfortunately, all the tables at the restaurant they intended to visit were already reserved. One of the waiters suggested that they wouldn't mind sharing a table with other customers, and they agreed. After a while, Alice and Rin were seated at a table, and with the assistance of a waiter, Iska headed to the table where Alice and Rin were sitting. Alice, who was drinking mineral water in front of her, choked and sprayed the water towards Iska. Iska, suddenly sprayed with water, felt a bit annoyed with Alice. However, just as Alice was about to respond, she held her nose as she had accidentally inhaled some of the water. Rin, concerned for Alice, got up from her seat and tried to scold Iska. In a slightly fearful tone, Iska explained to Rin that he was the one who had reserved the table they were currently sitting at. Rin, at a loss for words, asked for Alice's opinion, who had recovered from the discomfort caused by inhaling the mineral water. Alice confirmed Iska's statement but asked Rin to remain cautious and not let her guard down. With no other option, Alice and Rin ended up sharing the table with Iska. There was a silence between them, which was broken by Rin whispering to Alice, asking if she was sure about sitting at the same table with an Imperial soldier. Alice tried to reassure Rin that leaving would make them look like they were running away because they were afraid of Iska. Feeling hungry, Alice reached for the menu. But as she did, her hand accidentally touched Iska's hand, who was also reaching for the menu. Apologies were exchanged between Alice and Iska. Iska tried to lighten the mood by opening the menu and looking at it together with Alice. After perusing the menu in front of them, Alice then called the waiter to place their order. The waiter quickly arrived and took their orders. They both ordered the same meal, pasta salam and zucchini with thick cream sauce, ben cotta with light pasta, and a cup of tea with a lump of sugar. The waiter was surprised when he realized that their orders were identical. In no time, their orders arrived, and they enjoyed their meal together. The scene continues in a towering ice tower in the midst of a bustling city. Alice lies on a bed in a room, with Rin standing beside her. Rin tells Alice not to dwell on her encounter with Iska. Alice remains silent upon hearing Rin's words, and she suddenly notices Iska's handkerchief placed right next to her pillow. Rin continues to advise Alice to be cautious as there is a possibility that Iska could become the biggest obstacle one day. Shifting from Iska's room, where he is attempting to sleep but cannot. A train races through the middle of a forest, and a younger Iska is seated inside. However, the rapidly moving train suddenly comes to a halt due to an attack by lizard-like monsters. Iska, aware of the situation, exits the carriage and leaps onto the roof, drawing his sword to confront the monsters. The overwhelming number of monsters begins to overwhelm Iska. A hand emerges from behind Iska, emitting magical energy, and then a mist appears in front of him, transforming into an ice pillar that freezes the monsters leaping toward Iska. Startled, he turns around to see a blonde-haired woman in red attire standing behind him. Dawn begins to break, and Iska, who had fallen asleep, wakes up from his slumber. He proceeds to train in the morning with his friends. They run with large backpacks on their backs. The captain, trailing behind them, complains and asks Jin for water, but Jin doesn't give it to him. The captain stops and grumbles to Jin when he is suddenly pushed from behind. A brown-haired woman wearing glasses approaches Iska and the others, offering greetings. She is Rizia, their old friend who has become an advisor at the Special Defense Headquarters for Humankind. Rizia's visit is to inform them that the Mismus unit will be under her command in the upcoming mission. Learning this, the captain feels downcast because Rizia is too intelligent and he's unsure if he can grasp her strategies. With confidence, Rizia reassures them that they will be fine because she knows about Iska's sleep troubles. Slightly concerned about Iska's condition, she then gives him a ticket to the Sala Viblank art exhibition in the neutral city, Ain. The scene shifts to a room where a girl is sealed among the crystals that fill the space. In the center of the room stands a woman dressed in all white. Shortly after, Alice arrives and apologizes for her lateness to the woman, who happens to be her mother. She is aware that Alice has fought with a swordmaster from the Empire, equivalent to a Saint Disciple. The Saint Disciples protect Kara and are the Empire's strongest warriors. Alice, feeling puzzled, asks her mother if there is a problem regarding this matter. Without a word, her mother asks Alice to look up, and she proceeds to tell her about the founder who fought against 10,000 Imperial soldiers. The founder had a twin, Nebulous Eye, whose noble bloodline traces back to Alice and her mother. The Empire is unaware of this, and they celebrated the death of the Great Witch, Nebulous Eye. The crystals represent the founder's seal, which has begun to weaken. When Alice fought the Imperial Swordmaster, it triggered the reaction of the spirit's power when its host was in danger, similar to when the Imperial soldiers gained dominion and many spirit powers reacted simultaneously. The same thing happened to the spirit power, the founder, making it seem like a sign of its resurgence. The power of the founder's spirit is still a mystery, and regarding this, Alice is ordered to postpone her departure to the battlefield until they know the identity of the Imperial Swordmaster. Alice, trying not to dwell on it, also has some trouble with her sleep, so she needs a change of scenery and wants to go to the neutral city again. The next day, Alice goes to the neutral city alone. By the fountain in the neutral city, she coincidentally meets Iska, the Swordmaster from the Empire. Their purpose is the same, to visit the Viblink art exhibition featuring an impressionist artist from the Empire. Since their goals align, Iska invites her to go with him to the art museum. However, Alice chooses a detour and leaves Iska alone. Alice mustered the courage to walk alone through the narrow streets of the neutral city. With some hesitation, she ventured through one alley after another and found herself lost. Alice complained and asked for Rin's help. Time passed, and the orange-colored light signaled the arrival of evening. Alice decided to return to the fountain in the center of Ain where she had met Iska. Upon reaching the fountain, she stared thoughtfully at children playing with a ball. Lost in thought, Alice was startled when someone familiar called her name. She turned around to see a man she recognized, Iska. Iska, who had not found Alice at the art museum and was worried about her, decided to leave the museum and search for her. He offered to escort Alice to the art museum, but she firmly refused, stating that she was the princess of nebulous sovereignty. Alice accidentally revealed her identity and continued by saying that they were enemies, so they shouldn't go to the art museum together. Iska calmly responded that despite being enemies, art was limitless. Alice was left speechless, and she could only smile gently at Iska's words. The scene shifted to Iska and Alice inside the museum, both looking at the same painting. It was a painting Alice had been eager to see. In a soft tone, she asked Iska why he liked that particular painting. Iska, hearing the question, calmly replied that Veblenk only painted landscapes and never included people in his works. His subjects were inorganic and dark, yet filled with spirit. Iska explained that it was through these paintings that he could perceive Viblenk's personality, which was what made him appreciate his art. Alice, hearing this, felt the same way and blushed slightly in front of Iska. Alice felt grateful to Iska for showing her the way to the art museum and offered him a drink. Iska intended to decline but reconsidered upon seeing Alice's intentions. In the beautiful evening atmosphere, they sat together in a park. Alice, feeling curious, asked about Iska's age, and he answered without hesitation. Alice, feeling uneasy, tried to change the topic. However, Iska, exhausted, fell asleep right next to her. Alice was surprised and remained silent, trying to get a closer look at Iska's face. As she leaned in, Iska's body, unable to support itself, fell onto Alice's shoulder. She was startled but could only sit still, becoming his impromptu resting place.